And welcome back to Vanessa's podcast. Thanks everybody for listening. As always, I love to do this podcast and I'm trying to get some better episode each time. So today I'm going to be doing an episode on what it's like to have grown up in the 90s. So a lot of you knows what it's like. I was born in the 1980s, so if you were born in the same era, then you can relate. I've seen there's a few groups on Facebook and and some meetup groups also for the OGs. So yeah, when you reach 42, you start feeling a little old. So when I spend my lifetime living in my 20s, my mentality, my body grew up and my more wise, more experienced, um, but still feel young and hurt like a lot of us do, and even in new 60, new 70, new 80. It's really how you can manage to keep you soul at peace and at flow, and how you can sustain life by embracing all the all our difference, welcoming new things, be more tolerant, less tolerant of some things that don't serve you anymore, and don't get caught up on small dramas because you realize life is not always as long as you think it might be, and you don't know how long your road's gonna be, so you might as well do the best with it. And on Earth, with your physical body, you only have that one life. So you might you might have a eternal life in an universe after your body is decomposed and your soul is out there, and reliving a new life. But thing is that when that happens, you don't know the previous life. You don't have memories of the previous life. So let's say someone in the 1920 was reborn in someone else's life today, either animal life or human life. The same soul is sharing that body with a new soul, and they don't necessarily remember their past lives. The other thing that is strange to understand with this is that if there's a new soul in the new body, why does it need to have the old soul? I think it just depends. Really depends. There's some old souls, some new ones, and most of the time I'd say it's just old soul just getting renewed over time. So, or new modernized life. Anyway, so when you grow up in this time, you grow up with regular camera, Kodak, blockbusters, VHS tape, could get your picture developed in a lab, in a Photoshop. You have Polaroid if you want to see a picture instantly. Those were the fun things to walk around with. That cost a lot. You have audio recorder. We have Minitel to check on the transportation, the flights, the bus schedule, things like this. We had the simple desktop computer that had only one function, usually for business or essays or homework studies, just prepare for a big exam. But usually those computer back then were for professional only in some organization for usually high-tech places or business people. And not everybody had those, so same for the phones. We had all the long phones, the old Nokia, Ericsson, the phones with the long cords, the home phones. Everybody was using home phone. Just to think that Now you can just create. You have to literally create a ring uh, uh, to make it sound like the old phone rings. That's wild. Just to think about it. So yeah, so there was no time to stare at a phone, to just spend our days on social medias and the internet. We had better things to do. Here's the thing: is that everything that you see on the internet were the things that we were doing, but instead of just watching them, we were speaking of them, um, acting on them, taking action. So there was more action than just watching. So that's another big difference. Another thing is that there was more thrill and connection into getting souvenirs from countries you've never been than just being able to get it from the internet. There was no, home delivery like there is now, no food delivery like there is now. Um, there weren't as many stores. Everything wasn't easy. You needed to get a phone book, you needed to find a place, you needed to pick up your dial phone with a card on it. If you needed to make a call and contact somebody, if you lost someone's site, their address, there's a mission to try to find them. It wasn't just a click of a button and maybe a few search, task and then up, done. No, it took a longer time than that. Also, the thrill of picking up your pictures. You had 24 pictures coming, or you had two sets. You had some messed up picture. The photo, just photograph will describe to you, take your picture, tell you what's wrong with it, and they will redo them for free if some of them were messed up. You go there directly if you need a custom. So it was more a connection in that way, that you had more of a relationship with photographers. Now, if you had to do that, it would be just for professionals, school photographies, or anybody's using the old cameras, and I was paying a lot of money to get photographed, to get that done. But back then, it was every single time you develop pictures, so it made it a little difference in the interaction. Now you can go to Walgreens and Walmart and in the photo department, just insert your SIM card, or you can just order from computer at home and just pick them up, and that's it. Or you can just print your picture from a photo gloss, or just paper or cards directly from your home, or you can just store them in a drive or a USB or wherever you store it in a cloud, and you can have 5,000-10,000 pictures. It's funny because when you start doing that, you kind of forget to even look at your picture. That's pretty bad. Like, to think that you're taking all these pictures because there's no limit, there's no cost, and then you realize 3 months later, a year pass, and then, oh, what? I haven't even looked at those pictures. So what the hell I take the picture for? So that's like the overload of everything. So same as functionality of things, so of technology and electronic items. So instead of having one function or two, now you have 3 to 20. So how confusing is that? Very confusing. So it has a plus to it, but it's also too much all at once. You just don't enjoy it as much as if you just had one function or two, and it just defray the excitement of the next purchase of buying the other item that you need, instead of having everything combined. So let's say your phone, like the audio recorder, and let's say we had cassette players and then Walkmans, audio recorder, all those were different items. Then we had a laptop, then we had a TV, then we had, the VCR, we had all of this and other stuff. And now you got just one thing. So yeah, it's a little odd because I remember taking really good care of one item that I had and just be more content, more happy with it, and taking more care of it. I think when you just have one of everything, with one functionality, your brain's working better because with too many functionality that it's confusing, even more for someone who has ADHD or any type of attention disorder and overload and overload, exhaustion with other things they have to do. So yeah, other things in the 90s, we communicate. We didn't have that many movies to watch, so we just almost knew the only movie or two it was that weekend. Everybody would be watching the same thing, and then we'll be talking about it. We'll play board games, we'll play, darts, riding scooters, grabbing food, marshmallows, playing ping pong, playing tennis, engage more in sports, just so much more things we could do. So we had the rollerblades, we had dance competition. Yeah, all of these things still exist, but we spend less time on the phone and internet than we did. So it did make a really big difference. Other things are copier, faxer, scanners, all of those were just one item or two, and they cost a lot of money to get, and they were, they were the only way to send a resume or send your work or things like this. And now you take a screenshot and you take a picture and you email. So you just download a free app and you're able to fax a paper in a second. You can scan things. I mean, makes your life so much easier. But it takes off the hard work that it takes to get things done the right way and learn how to use a scanner. I bet you now if you ask anybody if they ever use a fax machine or a scanner, they'll tell you, no, I just use my phone. Like, they just click a button and then click send. But so a lot of people, like, when they have all these things so easy for them, and free, and too much of it, they don't care about them. They don't want to learn. And they just don't actually know the value of things either. So it really changed the mentality on the functionality of the things that are supposed to be made for various reasons. So if these are using one thing for but is made for something else, and it just really just makes everything more confusing, I think, altogether. So we had things like using computer twice a year in classroom because we didn't have one in our house. We would go in a Minitel, which is just a small screen where you click a few buttons and I'll tell you the schedules for trains and buses. When I was introduced to the internet for the first time, I was about 21. I had a desktop at the age of 23 for the first time, and only when I reached 27, I had my first very used laptop, which I rarely ever had internet on it. It was strictly just to write or do other things. Same for phone. I didn't have a phone until I was at least 14 or 15. It was just a phone with a game or two on it and voicemail. And it's only until I reach about 20, 21 that maybe had a never functioned. And then after that, I was until I was 24 when I used my very first text. And just to think that I did not even use Facebook until I was 29 or 30, which I rarely used it back then. When I learned about it, I would send pictures, try to reach out to some old friends, reconnect with people that I've lost. I mean, it was pretty amazing at first. And when I just got more and more, I believe I was probably maybe 32 or 33 when I actually started to be more of a social interactor, but it was not very often. So I'm just glad when I had a chance to live a lifetime without Ubers, with phone books, without GPS, without iPhones, without any type of phone, without Androids, without tablets, without laptop, without any sort of technology. So my life got more complicated, but I had to figure things out. I had to interact with other people. I had to ask for direction. I had to learn by my mistake, over and over until I learned. And even though I will still get lost sometimes, it still was the lesson learned here was that you didn't rely on the easy click of a button. Internet that will just tell you where you need to go and show you exactly step by step which bus to take, which where's the next taxi, or where's the next metro or whatever. So it's made it more difficult. Not that it's needed to have life more difficult. It's just more rewarding that you are putting more obstacles when you grow up. Like when I was growing up, I'm sure all of you, things like, having to meet new people, hitchhiking, which was more safe back then. Now, not very safe, but hitchhiking meant meeting people all the time, making new friends, having the time of your life, being invited to a fest, to a quad party or a motorcycle race or something like this. Also, without all this social media interaction, we were always out talking, acting on things. It's just much more pleasant than it is today. So there's a lot more than I could talk about the 90s, because I'm sure there's things that I missed. But if you have things that I didn't mention from the 90s, I'm sure there's a lot. You can just comment, let me know. And if you want to do the next episode, talk about the 90s, you grew up in the 90s, let's do it together. Alright, thanks everybody.